So I did want to talk about pricing power. So it's funny because I was driving down the road, pulled over to the side as a good person does. I put this question on Twitter, which was, you can only ask one question to decide if a business is a good investment or not. And you and I had the same answer, which was, can you raise prices? Do you have pricing power? And then there were a bunch of answers that I thought were really bad. So I don't want to shame people for those, but there's just like, how's the CEO compensated? Like, well, that's okay, but it's not good. I definitely wanted to dig with you about your thoughts on pricing power, because it's a very confusing thing for most people. Like, they have a hard time getting their head around it.
I'll admit, I'm still learning every day. If there was one thing someone could have whispered in my ear 10 years ago when I started, getting into business and investing, is pricing power. You only get involved in businesses that have pricing power and avoid pretty much anything else. With that question, can you increase your prices, or what happens if you increase your prices? It tells you so much about the business's positioning. A few things it tells you. One, it tells you what kind of a moat you have over your existing customers or potential new customers or market share. If you don't have a moat, well, if you increased your prices, everyone would switch to your competitors. So it kind of shows you where you stand between you and your competitors. It also shows you your supplier's power as well. And I think his name's Trent Griffin has this concept always talks about the concept called wholesale transfer pricing. It's when basically your suppliers have a lot of power over you. So anytime you increase your prices or you do really well, they increase their prices too. And that value gets kind of drained to your suppliers. So that happens a lot too, where you may have a lot of pricing power over your customers, and the threat of new entrants is low, and you can't, they won't switch to a new entrant. But if your suppliers have a lot of power over you, well, you could increase your prices, and then next year what happens is your suppliers increase your price, and then that value gets sucked into your supplier, right? And so I think it's super important, and all businesses that do really well over the long run have some form of pricing power one way or another.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. This is a very Buffett type idea, right? He and Charlie Munger would say, like, what's a good business? It's one that you're not terrified to raise your prices by 10%. Like, if you're terrified to raise your prices by 10%, you're in a bad business. That's what Munger, I think, the direct quote from him.